Did you miss me? I know I missed you. Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Taylor and today we are going to be talking about Gossip Girl seasons 1 and 2. And we're going to talk about that cancellation. But before we do that, I want you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and while you're at it, go ahead and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video here on Critical Commentary. So, this is going to be, as you can see from just how this intro has been, my overall energy towards talking about this TV show. This is going to be a mess of a video, and I invite you to come along on this journey with me. This will be a spoiler review about the 2 seasons that, released on HBO Max, and I'll kind of get into the business side of it. I do really want to know, why this show specifically was canceled. Not because I don't think that it shouldn't have been, but I also just wanted to talk a little bit more about just the Discovery acquisition, CEO Zaslav, kind of like that side of this decision, just because, while Gossip Girl was canceled, a lot of other shows were also canceled, and some were in the Gossip Girl pile as whether or not they are deserving, and some of them weren't. And I just wanted to get a little bit into that because I feel like it's a lot of tea here, and there's also just a lot to learn about the business side of film and TV. But mostly the tea. Mostly the tea.
The tea is exceptionally good today.
I'm petty. So the first season of the new Gossip Girl reboot was released in 2021, and it pretty much had a vague premise as to what was really going to be happening in the series. For those who don't remember or didn't watch the show and are using me as a way of avoiding that, Season 1 starts off with Zoya Lott and her dad, who live in Brooklyn, and she is attending Constance Billiard School. So she is the outsider. She's the Dan Humphries of this cast, but as you'll see as I kind of get into the other cast members, there isn't one sort of substitute for every main character of the show. A lot of characters are an amalgamation of at least 2 or 3 other characters, and then there's a little bit of seasoning to kind of make them their own, but this show is not that serious. If you're wondering why Zoya Lott is randomly going to this school, it's because her big half-sister is Julian, who is pretty much the Serena / Blair of Constance Billiard in 2021. They are pretending to not know each other for some sort of reason, but they've been pretty much secretly communicating through Instagram. They've concocted this plan to bring Zoya to New York so that they can have a life together and get to know each other as sisters. This is a nice premise, specifically because I felt like, it's interesting to see a biracial bigger sister who has lost her mother to a new Black family that is also not on the same socioeconomic level, and then that mother dies. I felt like this had the potential to be something really interesting because I thought that they were going to explore the intersectionality of class and race. Speaking of the rich and white elite.
Who am I saying that? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
We have Julian's boyfriend, Obi, who is, I guess you could say he's kind of a mix of Dan and Nate. He is this super wealthy, rich boy, German boy. I don't know why I laughed at that.
Stop judging me.
He has the generational wealth of Nate, but the social vigilance, or at least you could say performative liberalism, as Dan. He is Julian's boyfriend, and they kind of have like some weird relationship where they kind of keep breaking up. It's very on and off throughout the 2 seasons. I don't really know why they are even together. Season 1, they break up and he develops a relationship with Zoya, which just is really weird, and I feel like he has some weird like sibling kink, maybe. You know what I'm talking about in season 2, okay?
After a deep dive of Grace's socials with the other Grammar's geotags, last week when she was allegedly on the campaign trail with you, she was also somehow at Tacombe.
You said you were with your mom.
You told me you were with Obi. Town last week for your interview with Columbia. You stayed at the Crosby.
Oh my God. Your brother?
Then there is Audrey, who is Julian's like best friend. She definitely emulates, I think, a lot more of the dressing styles of Blair. I don't think that she has the same like social status. She kind of is like the best friend, but does her own thing. Her mother is a designer who's like got a little bit of some mental health issues that she's going through. There's also a introduction to a polyamorous or throuple or whatever like specific terminology I think that you would rather give it. They do kind of get into the conversation of pansexuality as well as polyamory, but it is really just the three of them, and that is Audrey, Max, and Aki. Aki is a tycoon's son, like a tech tycoon's son, and he is originally dating Audrey. They've been dating for a long time. He and Audrey both develop crushes on Max, who is very much the Chuck Bass of this series, but they're trying to make him like automatically lovable rather than the hateful twerp that he was in the first season. Like, we will never forget that level of like transformation that they gave Chuck's arc. Like, he went from being the most hated human being to one of the most beloved characters. I will say that like season 2 gets really weird with their relationship because I don't think they really like were trying to establish enough like communication in their relationship, and so there's a lot of like drama that just keeps happening. But the problem about it is that the drama is very like triangulating in that it's usually Max against Aki and Audrey, so like the original part of the relationship. And so I think they're trying to talk about like the struggles of being that third person that comes into an already established relationship prior to polyamory. But I also feel like, I don't know, it's not, I don't want to get into it right now. I'm just trying to get through like the characters, but there's like a thing there that I just really don't like, and I will get into it a little bit later in this video. Last but certainly not least are probably my two favorite characters from season 1 into season 2. There is like a second edition from season 1 that becomes a main part of the cast in season 2, and that is Shan Barnes, who becomes the best friend to Zoya. But I will say that these two characters, I loved them from day one. I loved their whole vibe, and their costumes are probably my most favorite to look at. Monet, Dahan, and Luna. Monet and Luna start off as the quintessential like girlfriends of the popular girl, but what I liked about it was that how it runs a little bit more like a business because they are her PR team rather than her lackeys, and I liked that change. I felt like it did address a little bit more of that power dynamic a little bit better, because you start to see that, you know, it is the entourage that makes the individual the queen bee. It is their work and their contribution to the image of the queen bee that makes her. And so I thought that was like, these were like really great concepts that could have been explored, that should have been explored, that definitely did not happen. The thing with Monet and Luna's arcs that really I just wish had been a little bit more evolved is just in the fact that Monet is dealing with living under the shadow of her mother, and so is Luna, but for different reasons. It feels very much like while they were trying to really make their characters more fleshed out, they never wanted to really make definitive statements about things, and that is something that I will say about everyone that was in this cast. All of their arcs felt very superficial and very just unearned. Now, there's the elephant in the room that I haven't spoken about, and it's because I do think to some degree it was the nail in the coffin. I gave this decision a chance in season 1, but I started to feel like once they got into season 2, they didn't really know where else to take it, and that's when I realized that, yeah, this was a bad decision. It's who they picked for Gossip Girl. Spoiler alert, it's a teacher. Tavi Evanson, who is, it's ironic, she's actually, I think, younger than the actor that plays both Julian and then the actor that plays Luna. So she's like not much older than, you know, the cast of people playing minors, but she's playing a teacher. And I think that was one negative. But to be honest with you, I think with the costuming and stuff like that, it's TV, and I feel like it's always, you would get some of the weirdest casting choices in these kinds of shows, and so I was just ready to like not nitpick that right away. So you're probably wondering why Gossip Girl being a teacher is such a bad thing. For one, it just negates a lot of the ethical considerations that I think having Gossip Girl being this random anonymous and then eventually another student reveal just works better, because old Gossip Girl was dragging people in the mud. She was slut shaming. She was talking about how much your daddy didn't have no money. She was talking about Me Too stuff. Like, she was talking about a lot of things that a position and power would become exploitative. It goes against the Orwellian big sister in that it's not just controlling and authoritative, but it's also immoral. And I think that's kind of what they were trying to do, but it's one thing for it to be a peer, it's another thing for it to be a grown adult. And this was a grown adult harassing minors, taking pictures of them without clothes, or undressing at least. Like, this is cringy stuff. And I feel like, you know, the way that they kind of change Kate from being this like anti-hero to straight villain in season 2, it was just done in a very rushed way because maybe they thought, you know, they were going to be canceled. They probably already knew that they were going to be canceled. But even still, I just wish that they had taken the time to really develop stuff before just like throwing it out there. I will defend this show in one way, though. I think that while, you know, it's so easy to just crap on the show and say that the show wasn't very good, neither was the original Gossip Girl. Like, Gossip Girl was trash from the beginning. Gossip Girl was meant to be this like comfort kind of show that allowed you to get out some, you know, pettiness, get out some of that luxury, that, you know, covetousness. You know, the show was to watch the rich elite tear each other down, and from the comfort of your own home. So when people, you know, want to drag this show, it's really hard for me to say that and then not really remember the original series for what it was, because it was very non-brainer. The storylines didn't really make sense. After a while, it became a soap opera, and that's kind of what this show always was. But I think the reason why people are holding the reboot to a higher standard is because they tried to highlight so many different minority people, but they did it with the disingenuity that I think the original show never really tried to do. You know, they were a show that mostly was filled with rich white people. because they didn't want to be political. They were just like, we just want to talk about rich white people. That's our thing. We want to make fun of them and whatever. Like, I feel like at that time, I wouldn't have wanted a black person really in that show, because think about what they did to Vanessa in that show. Like, the character assassination of her as the like best friend was just insane. So it's like, at that time watching that kind of show, I don't think I really wanted something woke. I don't think I wanted something that talked about race the way I think the reboot tries to. And I think that is why this show wasn't able to keep up with what they were doing. You're probably wondering why Gossip Girl got canceled. I don't care. I don't care. And I know I've pretty much listed all the reasons why it should have been canceled. I know that there was an RT score for season 1 of Gossip Girl's reboot at 38%. But for season 2, they were like in the 90s. And I feel like maybe it's because they were trying to legitimize Gossip Girl a little bit more. They were trying to show the darker aspects of having a teacher or someone in authority as Gossip Girl. They brought back Georgina. Like, I guess. Maybe that was all. Maybe that's why it's a 90%. Everyone just watched the episodes with Georgina in it, and that was it. But the show pretty much got canceled right at the time where I think that it was starting to fix itself. I think that you could use the argument of like, what if Netflix decided to cancel Bridgerton after season 2, which was, as we can all agree, was a lot better than season 1. I think that part of this has to do with the management. Now, I know that, CEO Zaslav is trying to get away from scripted content. But they renewed The White Lotus. And as far as James Gunn's DC slate, which just released this past week at the time of recording, doesn't seem like they're trying to get away from a bunch of scripted content. Now, I know this is bigger than that, but when you think about what Discovery acquired in this merger, they're getting Warner Brothers, they're getting DC, they're getting so many different under studios that were acquiesced by Warner Brothers before they were acquiesced by Discovery. So there's a lot of things that are still being allowed to continue as far as scripted content. And I just don't really understand why specifically Gossip Girl and a few other series that were kind of on its same level were discontinued, but we get a renewal for The Sex Lives of College Girls. And The Sex Lives of College Girls has very similar criticism in the fact that, it's not similar criticism, but there is the same level of criticism in the fact that Mindy Kaling has been under fire for using a lot of white males as the main love interest to POC characters in the show. Sex Lives of College Girls is doing a little bit better with that. But I feel like they just broke up like the only black couple to put them with white people. And like, I have a problem with that a little bit, because I just felt, you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it feels very targeted, but like that show is getting continued, and I love both. And I hate both for some of the similar reasons. But do you see where I'm going with this? This is all speculative. At the end of the day, it could just be that they weren't bringing in as much money. It could be that just the problems of Gossip Girl were just too much to ignore. I'm willing to acknowledge that. I just also felt like, I don't know, this was a messy situation. The show was messy, and I feel like it went out in a messy way. And maybe that is more on brand to the Gossip Girl franchise than us fans really want to admit. So I'm curious to know what you guys think. I'm curious to know if you saw the reboot and if you really did enjoy it, especially season 2 over season 1. Were there things that I missed out that you felt like I needed to address as well in this series? I'm curious to know what you guys think. Please let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at CriticalCom with 2 M's TV. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You know you love me. XOXO. Bye, guys.